Today I want to talk about an age-old debate in Blitz, PC or touch. What is actually better? Many touch players wouldn't ever play with any PC players. Many PC players don't really care. And especially when it comes to tournaments, people are getting outrageous about this matter. But what are the actual advantages and disadvantages to each platform? Just for the context here, I've played about 80,000 games on PC, managed to hold several tanks at 4K average consistently, and then I switched over to touch, and there I almost reached the same level. But does that mean that touch is worse? We will have to take a closer look. Okay, just generally speaking, what are the main differences between touch and PC? On PC we do have a larger screen and also we do have a keyboard. That alone can be a huge benefit. Mainly for the keyboard, I love that you don't misclick. You have your fingers right on top of the buttons, you feel the difference between the buttons, and you are just able to always have multiple fingers available to tap whatever button is needed straight away. On touch, on the other hand, I feel like quite often you are misclicking. You may just hit the wrong ammunition button, for example, because you have to put your finger to a different position and don't feel any gap in between, you don't feel any edge of the button there. But after a while of training that, you will not have any difficulties with hitting the right buttons with an almost 100% chance.
For sure.
But still, on PC I was using 4 fingers or 5 fingers even on my left hand and then another 2 to 3 on my right hand. So I had 8 fingers ready to tap the buttons, while on touch I'm using 4 at the moment, and that is pretty much the most you can do. Some people are playing with only 2 or 3 fingers, and that should be the majority of you. Maybe let me know how many fingers you are using while playing on touch. Still, the amount of fingers used doesn't seem to impact the statistics of pro players all too much. Let's talk about the screen size. Does it really matter? Intuitively, you would say of course it matters, because if you're having a larger screen you will see more. But if we are taking a closer look at it, what actually happens if you are increasing the screen size at the same aspect ratio, you are not seeing more to the side, you're just increasing the size of the entire picture. This also might allow you to just aim a bit more accurately, especially if you're shooting in third-person view. Otherwise, if you're aimed in, if you're zoomed in, then it shouldn't really matter at all. But there is a caveat to it. Not the screen size actually matters, but the screen format does. Let me show you right here. If I'm just making it a really wide screen, in case you didn't know, you can make Blitz as wide as you want to. Well, you do see a ton to the sides. Just look at this, check this out. You see all the stuff that is going on to the side. You can almost look around your entire tank, and that is of course a huge benefit if you are not having to turn your vision to look to your sides and see what's going on right next to you. Contrary to that, many tablets, especially the iPads, have a rather high screen, contrary to the 16:9 format or even wider that PCs have, or phones as well. Mind you, the phones also do have a wider screen than the iPads. But what a higher screen means is that you are seeing less and less of what is going on to your sides. So if you want to look around, you will actually have to turn the camera even further just to see what is going on behind you, and you will lose vision to the front. So in case you are actually selecting your device just to play Blitz, maybe pay attention to it having a bit of a wider screen therefore. Talking about looking around, this is when the overview comes into play. On PC, I feel like that is actually quite a lot easier, mainly because you can just tap the right mouse button to fix the turret and look around. You do see a lot more of what's going on behind you like that, and it is a lot easier as well. On touch, you do need to use the lookout bar that is to the bottom of your screen, and that also does the same job, but it is being trickier to navigate that. There is also one more thing that is really outstanding on PC devices, which you don't have on touch, and that is on the settings. On the settings you do have a mouse sensitivity and a mouse sensitivity and aiming mode. On touch, on the other hand, you only have one sensitivity slider. Because of that, you can go for a rather high sensitivity in the third-person view on PC, while you are going for a very low sensitivity than in sniper mode. And that allows you to aim very accurately to shoot at the enemy's weak spots, but still have a really high sensitivity that allows you to quickly zoom around and just see what's going on. And that is actually what I most struggled with when switching from PC to touch. Not the aiming, but the overview. I had to figure out a sensitivity setting that is working in both sniper mode and in third-person view, and never really got to go for the perfect solution there because I did not have different options there, but had to go for the balance in between that was just kind of okay for both, but not perfect in any regard. Moving on to the aiming itself. On PC you do have an automatic zoom and also a manual zoom option, which looks like this. You are having multiple steps to zoom, so you can go in and zoom in as much as you want to. Some PC players claim this was a huge benefit on the PC controls. I personally never used that. I got to reach a really high level without ever using manual zooming. I always used the automatic zoom only. So on touch, of course, you only have automatic zoom because you don't have any mouse wheel, which I don't find to be a particular disadvantage actually. But to help out with the aiming on touch, we do have the auto aim. And the auto aim is actually super strong. When I switched over to touch, the first thing I noticed was, damn, this auto aim is so good, I'm hitting the weak spots like never before. As the auto aim roughly tracks the opponent, you will be able to just make only slight adjustments to hit the weak spots. The way this works is not only that the auto aim tracks the weak spots roughly, but also that the sensitivity in the sniper mode gets decreased a lot once the auto aim is locked in on the enemy. And therefore, in my opinion, if you use auto aim, you have a huge advantage on touch when it comes to hitting those weak spots, as you have a huge assistant for hitting those little spots. One little advantage to touch I've got to mention here as well. Thanks to the auto aim, you are able to shoot in third-person view a lot more often. On PC I wouldn't even recommend this. With a bit of practice this works quite reliably and you don't have to aim in and therefore get some additional overview again. As you don't have the auto aim on PC, the enemies might just move in and out of your reticle quite easily and you might not see them all the time. On touch you always see the weak spot in your vision to some degree at least. But the auto aim also doesn't come without any disadvantages. If you're having multiple tanks behind each other, the auto aim sometimes randomly flips over to the target behind the one that you're aiming for. Especially in close brawl situations, in tournaments for example, this can be very tricky to navigate around. Also, when you are shooting at a distance, the auto aim might just lock onto the target when you don't intend it to, and therefore just pre-aiming the enemy becomes a little bit more tricky than if you just point and shoot right where the enemy is going to appear. Also, because you are using auto aim, you are so used to having that low sensitivity with auto aim locked in so that you can barely turn it off. For example, if you're trying to shoot through some little gaps, using auto aim will be almost impossible there. You have to turn off the auto aim with an extra button and then try to aim at a little tiny gap, which is actually really hard to do if your sensitivity is so high without the auto aim, so that you don't hit accurate shots not using it. Also, PC has some kind of auto aim, but that is actually quite useless. The PC auto aim is activated by hitting the right mouse button and aims straight at the center of any enemy tank. And this means it can be useful if you are circling the opponent and want to just aim at him while looking around yourself or looking at the other targets, the other opponents that might be going for you. Otherwise though, especially if the enemy is having some armor, it is highly unreliable to use it. And there's actually one advantage to touch devices that PC can simply not keep up with, and that is that you can sit on your freaking couch while playing. You can sit literally anywhere, wherever you feel comfortable playing, and this is so much more amazing in my opinion than sitting at a desk for gaming. This actually sounds like a lot of it is speaking for PC. So should you also play on PC instead of touch? But looking at those players above 4K average, we have multiple people who are playing on touch and others who are playing on PC. One guy even played on his phone and on PC, so he did not care at all. I can really not say that the statistics really matter on the controls you are using. You can be good with any kind of device. The question is, how well can you use your controls you're having at hand? How well are you familiar with the device that you are having? Doesn't matter if it's a PC, doesn't matter if it's a phone or some iPad or whatever. Most of the performance, statistically speaking, in Blitz is just dependent on your game knowledge and not the controls you're using. Of course, for first steps you have to aim accurately, you have to move your tank around reliably, but that is possible on any kind of device. To the higher level players, then it's more important to look around, and even higher level players, they only care mostly about the movement. If you are in the right position, if you're moving out of wrong positions or dangerous positions on time. For more on that subject, I actually created an entire video differentiating between the lower level and higher level players. But for that reason, I don't really care if I'm playing with PC players or not. A last consideration here, which players are actually better? I cannot really base this argument on statistics. It is simply a hypothesis. But I assume that more PC players are actually more used to gaming on PC, and everyone has a mouse that you are actually to some degree used to. So just using your cursor around your desktop or aiming in-game isn't a huge difference. So I think that PC players probably are more committed gamers and are also not struggling with the controls as much. The touch players, on the other hand, they might occasionally play on the go with bad internet. They might also just simply struggle a lot more with the controls. Because many of us, especially those who aren't all too young, just never really got used to touch gaming at all. If you're using a touch device, the controls are entirely different than if you are using the joystick on the screen. That is an entirely different world. So when starting to play on touch, you really have to learn some new controls from scratch. And many of the Blitz players will actually also be completely new to touch gaming. But still, we've got the full range of player levels from the 40%ers to the 80%ers on either platform. It doesn't really matter. You can perform just as good on any device. Nonetheless, I actually keep the same control mode activated on my iPad. If PC players have a slight advantage only, I don't necessarily want to meet them. But I don't mind playing with PC players. If it's late at night and the queue time gets to be quite long, then I also occasionally just turn off the same control mode. So what are your takes on this subject? What do you play on, and what do you feel like is the better choice for you? Please let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching.